Welcome to another Liquid Bullet Productionz. With us today is Adam Ball, Southend Guy Paranormal.
Welcome. Hi, Lee.
Great to have you, Adam. So basically you investigate paranormal stuff. You've done a few sites, Southend Garrison, Shoeby Garrison, East Tilby Battery, St Peters, Bradwell-on-Sea, Canvey, Pluckley, Isle of Grain Tower, V-Day, Fort Bay, and even been on the Rettendon site where the murders were. All right. Before we start, when you first walked in this building today, you picked up some sort of activity, is that correct?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, I as a bit of a part of the course, when I walk into a new area and I'm anything to do with what I do, I'll put an app on. It's called GhostTube.
Yeah.
It's on iOS and Android, and it's a great app for. It's like a multifaceted. It uses the phone sensors to pick up changed magnetic fields and anything. It's got like a proximity sensor, so if anything goes past the phone sensor, it'll pick it up.
Yeah.
And it's also got an 800-word dictionary, which can be used by spirits to manipulate and put words out. And I literally walked in, as is a new place, I've put it on, and the first words that come out was "show yourself." And yeah, so that was immediate. Some food. It can be a little bit random with some of the words it puts out, but I tend to find once it's on the site, and if it throws out the same thing, time and again, that we've got something there. Yeah. Which it did as when I actually set it down and put it out with a little cat ball there. It was spitting out a few words then. Yeah,
I saw that as well. That ball you put down was like a light thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And obviously I banged the side to sort of set the lights off. It didn't set them off.
No.
So what is it that sets that off? Because
that
was quite a movement I gave it. And it
didn't go off. They're actually cat balls, like for moggies to play with, because when they back stuff around, that's when the LEDs go off. But what we found is that spirits can actually touch the inside, and it will set the LEDs off. Right. So I thought I'd just try one out. I put it on the side, and obviously it goes off because I'm moving it, but I put it down, it stopped, and then it went off again. And then it done it again, and this time I actually managed to get it on record. Yeah. So we could see it.
Yeah, we can flash that up and show everyone.
Yes. So that was a little bit of indication that something was there. Yeah. And we was getting the words come out of the GhostTube, which we had satanic 3 times.
What does that mean?
Satanic means of a darker nature. It's to do with the devil, Satan. Then satanic.
So it's not a good sign.
No, off the bat, that ain't good. No. So that's what it come out, and it also come out of America 3 times as well. Right. Which my first question was how many Americans up on that wall, which it says quite a few. Right. So it could be that. But moving on from that, I thought I'd just ask my pendulum. I've got a variety of means of communication and detection, but some of the oldest methods, which are pendulums and dowsing rods, which I use a lot, generally give it a reasonably accurate response. And with a pendulum, you'll see it's a chain. There's my one's got an opaline crystal on the bottom of it, obviously yellow fluorite. Different crystals give different properties, right. But what you find is that there's certain things of that nature that will sort of call to you. It's weird. It's like I look through a load of different crystals, and it's like, yeah, that one I like. That one's it's sort of picture.
Yeah, sort of you get a feel for it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that sort of came through. So I picked that one. Well, anyway, I've asked outside to tell me how many spirits it is. So I said, is there more than 2? And it went, yes. So we can assume that there's at least 3 in here.
You may have to come back at a later day and do an investigation.
I would be absolutely thrilled to come back here and sit here at night and do stuff.
Yeah, we talk to Simon and maybe get you in.
Yeah.
So can we just go back to obviously tell us a little bit about your history and how this started and where you've been, etc., etc.
Yeah. Well, the paranormal stuff started. I'll go back to I was a child. I used to get precognition. You'd see things before they happen.
Yeah.
I can remember very vividly in a dream of a maths test, for example, and I literally saw myself walking into school next day, sitting on my desk, opening a book, and there'd be a 12 out of 12 on the top of it, and then the next morning, it was as if it was on a replay. So I always knew there was something there.
Yeah.
And I got more interested when I was a teenager, looking into the unexplained and everything. And at the start of last year, I actually started getting 1 or 2 bits in, like the K2 meter, for example, was like the first thing I bought in. I thought, at the time, when I get a moment, I can go out and look at some things. Well, the lockdown actually presented us with that opportunity because I'm DJ, that's what I've done for 14 years now. And obviously because of the restrictions that got put on us, the first few weekends were novelty. It's like, hey, I can sleep in and that sort of thing. But then it's like, I'm a bit bored.
You soon get bored of that,
So I thought, well, I've got a little GoPro. That's how I started, a little GoPro camera that I usually wear for my crash helmet. I had that, bought a couple of lights, cheap little mic, went out with my K2 meter and an app on my phone called Necrophonic. That's like a communication where spirits they can manipulate the sounds and words in that app to give you responses. So that's how it literally went out. And it was a case of keeping me week, something to do on the weekend. Because I had a YouTube channel sitting there for years, but I barely, I put odds and sods up, and I thought, well, now's a chance to get and use it. Literally how I started.
So what sort of sites, obviously we mentioned a few of the sites you've been, but you just talk us through sort of what activities you found or what the reason is for going there in the first place?
It initially started with looking at sites that have got history.
Yeah.
You can go online and look up, paranormal hauntings and that sort of thing. You generally get the same kind of sites pop up. So you thought, well, okay, I'll initially check out what's there, see what responses you get. The first site I actually did was Catch as well, because it's well known. And that's over in Langdon, One Tree Hill, that is Langdon Hills. We went over there. We actually bumped into another crew over there at the same time, which is quite funny.
Doing the same thing,
yeah? Yeah, it was just me and Kira. That's the start. Kira and I she come out with me first off. And we walked into because it's woods, and there's a well that's been there 100 years. Right. It's like falling down and all sorts, but it's quite an eerie look and feel there. And we walked in, there was a bunch of other people, and I thought, oh, crumbs, here we go, it's going to be some kids and, dossing about and all that, but it weren't, it was another crew. So it's quite handy, so I was able to swap notes and, see what we got.
Work together a little bit.
Yeah, and the thing with that place was that you can get, what was described on the websites was like mood swings you can pick up, and there's all sorts of other bits. and Kira was definitely picking it up. There's also a lot of child spirits down there, I think, because there used to be a sanatorium up the road which had tuberculosis sufferers in there. So obviously they had a few deaths from that, and I think some spirits are from there. But yeah, we certainly felt changes within ourselves, and then stuff that come through the apps. Communications, we were asking questions, and they can use that to respond. And so that's one method, is just the communication responses. As time gone on, I've got more equipment. The K2 will register EMF, it changes in the magnetic fields. Spirits again can use that to manipulate. A good example is my first visit to Shuby Garrison.
Yeah.
And my first episode was actually linked with my last episode, which is quite a nice turnabout. So that's another thing. Physical apparitions I've not seen as yet. When I go back over the edits, what I do pick out is orbs. You'll even see them on my own vlogs. There's orbs flying around me.
So just to explain to people that are not quite sure, orbs are meant to be like a spirit, is that right?
That's right, yeah, just a little light. That's
like a ball.
That's it, floats. Yeah. That's one example. You can catch them on photography, video, because the camera sees more than what the human eye does.
Yeah.
So they will pick them out.
Yeah, so them orbs thing, obviously I've seen a few videos and stuff, but you never see them with the natural eye, do you?
No,
it's only like caught with the cameras and videos.
It's only you go past it. I mean, a good example was when I was doing my vlog for Monday, this Monday just gone. And I've got my camera looking at myself, and of course I've got the viewfinder, so I can see myself recording, and I can see the orbs going, literally going past there. I can't see them, but the camera does.
The camera
it's quite a thing. But yeah, orbs are another thing, and EVPs are another, which is electronic voice phenomena, and that's spirit voices, where again, recording devices like the camera will pick up more what the human ear does. And so while you may not hear anything, once or twice I have, which has been quite eerie, when we were over Pluckley.
Yeah.
But an EVP is when you recorded a site, and when I go back over the edit, there's like a voice there, or there's a couple of words spit out, but it's no one there.
Yeah.
And it's certainly none of my crew. It's just a voice, and it will say a couple of words, maybe, even a sentence at times. And, we've had some really, especially that I'll go on to with the retina thing. But I've had an example of a response was St Michael's Church in Pitsea. It's up on the mount, and we were just walking around, or rather Tracy was, she was walking around with her camera there. Tracy and Ricky joined me after Kira did, and Tracy's recording her bit for Tracy Cam. And when I've gone over the edit, and she noticed a couple of really old gravestones on the floor, and she was talking away, and I picked an EVP out, and it said, "Don't forget us." It was quite heartwarming. Do you know what I mean? That someone's responded to what Tracy was saying.
Yeah.
And we get that a few times where, we've got an actual response to what we've got, something we've said. Again, that's another thing. So we've got orbs, EVPs, devices being set off as well. Sometimes you can get things move of their own accord. Something else that's happened in Pluckley. Does it not sort of
give it a bit of the EBGBs?
The first time something has happened, I've shit myself. Because just now walking through with the dowsing rods, when they first moved, again this was over Shoebury, when they first moved of their own accord, I'm like, oh my days, these are moving, I'm not having anything to do with this. I'm just asking questions, and they're, and I'm like, that ain't me. And I did have someone at Brabham-on-Sea, a couple of lads, there was some kids, young and old teenagers, popped round, and I was watching what he was doing, and he said, "You're moving them." So he said, "1,000 rods." And I started asking the questions, and the lad's standing, and I said, "Right, okay, you need to calm your mind, be nice and calm, clear." And then once we was at that point, I said, "Right, now I can ask questions." So I'm asking the questions, and the spirit's responding via the dowsing rods, and the lad's sitting there, same as I did. First time, it's like, these are moving, I'm having nothing to do with it. So that, when the K2's gone off, when the necrophonic, like the communication app, when I've heard my name come through there, and like, who the hell's just said my name?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? All these firsts are like, shit. You just get that moment of. Well, once the thing is, once it's happened once, it's like, okay,
become used to
I know what to
it.
expect.
Yeah.
So I'm a lot calmer with walking into sites. The only thing we tend to do is if we feel that we're not welcome at a site, and it's just a lot of feeling you get.
Yeah.
Which I think. Is it Simon?
Simon,
yeah. As he said, there's a feeling he had a few times. You just got to get out. It's that feeling when you go, because if you don't, things can get progressively worse. You know, if you antagonise spirits, things can change, and we know when to say, right, we're drawing the line.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise you get all sorts. You can have attachments and.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is bad.
It just explained that one attachment.
Now, an attachment is where a spirit decides it wants to attach itself to you. So that spirit is with you all the time, and it can really mess with you. It can mess with your moods, with what's going on around you, and it just sort of brings you down because it's happening energy.
Right.
And I had a very close encounter with one myself in Hornchurch Park. Now, it used to be an RAF station. It was actually used during World War One, and then they repurposed it for World War Two. And we went to visit a pillbox over there. And just as we finished, and I felt I didn't really antagonise anything, but there was a niggling, like there was something darker in there. And as we come out, I've just started coughing. Now that is a sign. It just sort of out of nowhere. No, I was fine before. Nothing had flown into my mouth, but it was just like coughing my guts up.
Yeah.
And I managed to cough up something. You know, I coughed some shit up. And then it sort of calmed down again after that, and I'll tell you now, I prayed. We always start and finish our sessions with a prayer, but the moment I'd done that, we'd done a finished prayer. And when I got back to my car, I prayed again, Lord's Prayer, wherever else I could bloody well find, because I thought, I ain't having this following me home, you know. And as I say, we generally know when an area is darker to sort of, right, we're going to cut that.
Yeah.
You know.
So what sort of things have you come up against when you've been to these sites?
Do
you find, like, for example, if you Google a site and it tells you about certain history, do you actually find that stuff, or do you find other stuff?
We've checked. I know I'm going to go on to one site, but I tend to get like Norse spirits come through, because I'm of Norse descent. I'm Norse heritage.
What does that mean?
That's Viking, basically.
Oh, right.
So I come from Viking lineage.
Yeah.
And I've found that Viking spirits have come through to me on several occasions. And a good one is St Andrew's Church in Ashington. Now, it's about now actually, because we're October the 15th, right, today. And I think it's October the 18th. There was a battle that took place in 1016 between the Anglo-Saxons and the Vikings. Now, there's a lot of that had gone on in the area. One of the byproducts of me doing this is I've learnt a lot of history, particularly of Essex. But there was this battle, and there was a site called Paranormal Database which mentioned this. So we thought, we'll go and check that out. It's supposed to hear moans and all sorts. So we've gone there, and yes, we did get a Viking spirit set off one of my alarms. He also communicated from my dowsing rods. He also zapped one of our lights. Ricky's got one of these, like the flashlight, which is supposed to run for 2 hours. It was zapped in about 20 minutes. Just something that just drained it.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, I'd obviously set my REM pod off, which is like a proximity sensor on the phone, and it will just detect anything that goes across the aerial. But that went off. It was funny because Ricky had moved it. It had gone off by a tree. Ricky then moved it from behind the camera, put it down. He walked off, and it then just went off of its own accord. So I've asked the spirit from my dowsing rods, can you point to where you are? And it went straight where the REM pod was. So that was quite a shocking thing. But and we had, as I say, the Canvey one as well. But I also did the Battle of Benfleet as well, just St Mary's Church, where we got the Viking spirits come through. And again, it was just a little bit of communication over the rods. Different areas, you get different responses. It depends how much energy is there. And it will sort of determine how much you get in. in terms of content.
Just a quick question from myself point of view. Is it sort of mainly night time you get activity, or can it be any time of the day? Or
It can be any time of the day. We generally say the witching hour is generally night time. It's particularly between 12 and 3 is the most active witching hour. Unfortunately, getting out of that time to record is very limited. I've done it once or twice, but generally find at night when the sun's gone down, and we've got proper night time, that's when, they become more active. But the most active time is between 12 and 3. So if you get anything happen, it's generally that time.
Yeah.
And other channels as well, when you watch them, when they put the cameras in whatever rooms they're staying, they've gone to sleep and I've got the night vision on, and you can just see things happen, like a bed cover might lift, or something might fall off, or a light might flicker on, that sort of thing. That's a spirit's hour.
Gotcha.
But I haven't done any inside yet, so we haven't, I haven't had that. That's the one experience I haven't had, because virtually every investigation we've done has been outside due to all the restrictions we've had since last year.
Because of COVID.
Yeah, so it's been very hard to do anything inside.
Yeah. So what's been your most sort of biggest find, or?
Rettendon notwithstanding, probably the most, I'd say Canvey and St Peter's on the Wall in
What is Canvey? What is that site?
That is, if you go down to the point, which is like the sort of eastern, southeasterly corner of Canvey, there was a report that I'd read which stemmed back to the 1920s of a ghost Viking. And it's quite a well-known story for the island. And it's said to have gone out to the marshes and disappeared. And he actually turned up in someone's, it was a local character at the time, or Charlie or something. He actually turned up in his bedroom and actually had a conversation with his Viking ghost. The ghost just turned around and said, "Oh, you Anglo-Saxons all the same," and pissed off. And I said, that was it. What was that all about? But that when I went to do that one, I actually hit the area 3 times, because the first time we got a little bit through. The second time was when I was expecting to get the Viking, and I actually got the bomb crew from the B-17 that crashed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Again, it's a bit of history that I had no knowledge of.
Yeah.
But
so you gain the knowledge from going and investigate.
Yeah. And it's then that you look at others, when you look at other sites, and it's what I tend to look for when I go for a site is the history. Because if there's if something's been there a long time, it will have history, and chances are there will be energy. So this is the thing. This building here, I'm assuming, was probably put up in the 1930s. That's my guess. So I'm saying, this is 100 years old. You don't know what's gone on in here prior to you taking it on, and there could have even been stuff here before then. Some things we just don't know. But if there's been settlements in areas and they've been there a long time, then you tend to find, there could be energy there, particularly if something's gone on. We've got records that go back, let's say, to the 18th century, birth, deaths and marriages. Past that, it's a bit more hit and miss. So you don't know what's happened at that site. Hear from something else. So when we went back, I said, I've got a secondary objective. All right, we want to get some more, we want to get some more answers from what happened here. I said, we need to help this girl. And she was impatient. She cut my radio mic. It was fine. The previous day, it was fully charged. It was fine, worked fine. And she cut it. And when I went home and I tried it the next day, it was fine. She interfered.
I've heard that. Is that true that they interact with electrical devices? Isn't it?
They can piss about with your electrical stuff, drain your batteries. Because they're looking for energy to try and, if they want to make themselves known, they will drain energy from something.
Yeah.
And I've known a few people said, I've had lights flicker and.
Certainly getting a bit cold in here, mate. I don't know if it's what we're talking about.
Possibly.
Bloody freezing.
I don't know, it's what I picked up out there, but it could well be. Yeah.
So could you explain, go over the sites and the findings you've had to date for us?
Yeah, I mean, with the Shrewsbury one, this was kind of a good link because that was, although Casheswell was the first site we did, Shrewsbury was the first time when my K2 blipped off. One of the things we do need to check is for electrical equipment because other electrical equipment can interfere, like strip lighting can do that. Your phone signal. So when we start a thing, we always make sure our phones are on airplane. The only time is when we do a live feed. It's the only time we have to use it. But it was off, and I'm like, Kira, this is going off. This is flickering, and something was trying to come through there, and we did get the communication. I can't exactly remember what the communication, because we're going back like 18 months ago now. But to bring it around, the last time we was there was when the full team was with me, which is Tracy, Ricky, Tina and Jay. We tried several different methods to get in contact with whatever, because whoever's there set my cat balls off. And we got stuff come through on the Spirit Box app. We're going this communication. That's slightly different. It's a radio on scan, and the voices can come through between the two
That's
stations.
what I heard earlier when it said American or whatever.
That's a slightly different app. But the Spirit Box one, it's if you can imagine a radio, and it just doesn't stop at the stations. It's on constant scan, and spirits can talk through that white noise. And we got, I think, on Roger or something like that, and it turned out that spirit that was coming through then was the one that was setting off my K2 the year before.
Oh, blimey.
So he'd been there all that time, but because I'd only just started, I didn't recognise what was happening as much as I did the following year.
Yeah.
Because I'd done the spirit crossings, I'd understood a lot more. I was then able to ask you if they needed our help, what happened, that sort of thing. And we used a method on that called the Estes method. That was a good help for this, because how an Estes method works, you get that same Spirit Box, all right? So you got your radio on scan, plug some headphones in, and then you in your ears, so either buds or self noise cancellers, ear defenders if you're using buds, and a blindfold. So it's sensory deprivation.
Yeah.
You're taking away any external influences. So the only sound you've got is coming from the Spirit Box. Now, if you're under the Estes, so you've got the blindfold on, right, the Spirit's now talking to you, but the Spirit is responding to what I'm asking. So let's say, can you repeat my name? Right, and then all you'll hear through that radio
is an answer.
Is the answer. You won't hear or see anything else. You've got no idea what I'm asking, but that will, that will be the response. And we got some. I think the response we got that time was there was like a choking. She's like Tina was like, I could feel choking, but it wasn't for strangulation. It was for asphyxiation or smoke inhalation, I think it was. But as I say, because we was able to understand a lot more from all the other investigations, it was that same spirit that came through there, that came through the first time. But now we was able to help him, and that's what we did. We helped him cross over. So that Shrewsbury one was. It's weird because people walk through there all the time, and like other than bits of history on that place.
I suppose it's like the nighttime thing though. People don't seem to go to them areas at night, would they?
No.
Not unless they're doing something like yourself. But
that's. Another thing going back to when we first did it was when my dowsing rods first moved. And like I said again, it was like, oh crap, they're moving. Yeah. But that time was by the big gun emplacement, and what was coming through didn't seem nice. So we was like, I said to Kira, my lights were going anyway. I said, we're going to lose it here. But I said, because there was responses coming through my necrophonic app as well, and it was like, this don't feel nice at all. Yeah. So I said, we're going to cut it there.
Just when you said there about didn't feel nice, I saw one of your videos. I can't remember where you was, some dark lane, and the machine thing you was using said danger a few times, and you was like, okay, I'm going.
Yes, yeah. It's like
is that like a warning? Sorry?
Yeah, that is a point. And if you continue, expect a lot of shit to be thrown your way. Yeah. And as I say, it's the common. The problem is if you get an attachment, you then need to really see someone of a religious or a spiritual nature who can clear you. Yeah. Because you ain't getting rid of it. You know, it's a serious thing. So we had to be really.
So you never cross that line. You just as soon as you get that feeling of negativity, it's time to go.
Yeah, the closest we had was Hornchurch Park. Closest I had.
Can you talk us through that one?
The Hornchurch Park, yeah. I've been there a couple of times. We do need to go back because there's other parts of that place we need to check out. But there are reports of stuff if you go online on the paranormal database and that of alleged soldiers being heard or RAF crew because it's an RAF base and planes and all that sort of thing. And yeah, we've gone to a pillbox and we've gone in there and we was going through the usual motions, have the spirit box on. I'm talking with dowsing rods, and nothing. It was weird because nothing untoward seems to come through that. I can't remember if it was that one or the first time. We got what appeared to be a spirit we think was Fiona or something like that. She liked us being polite. She wasn't keen on Ricky's jokes.
Yeah.
And she said she liked me, and you know what I mean. It didn't seem anything untoward, but it was like we finished up, and as I walked out of there, I've just out of the blue just cough, and I'm sitting there coughing my guts up, and something come up, and then it just started to clear. As I said, I've done the closing prayer because we always start with an opening prayer of protection, and we finish with a closing prayer of protection. Done that. Got back to the car, done the Lord's Prayer, done something else. I just did not want anything following me home. That was, it was quite a... I've seen it happen to other people and then to see I've experienced it firsthand.
Have you ever come across any spirit, sort of, I don't know, like a known spirit or people's family, relatives, things like that type of thing? You have,
Yeah, my own ancestor.
Really?
This was St Mary the Virgin in Great Baddow. And what happened here, this wasn't the first choice site, it was a plan B. Tracy picked out Chelmsford Cathedral to go and do. So we went over to there, but we couldn't really settle because it's in the middle of Chelmsford, so you got people milling about and that. So I didn't get enough to do any content with. I picked out a couple of EVPs and things, which was quite good. But I said, look, I've got a plan B. We've got St Mary the Virgin Church down the road. And all I'd read online, apparently the spirits of ghost soldiers can be seen looking up to the church or something. And that was all I'd read. Didn't really look at the history because it was a quick, spur of the moment. So anyway, we got to the site, we've literally set up and we've got going. And we was getting like, I think was coming through an app or something like that. And as I'm walking around the site and I'm reading about St Mary the Virgin, it became apparent that this place was one of the starting places of the Great Peasant Revolt of 1381. It's well entrenched in English history when we kicked off against the royalty because it was just after Black Death, and the monarchy wanted to tax the peasants a lot more to fund the army, and peasants said no, and there were three leaders of this. There's Wat Tyler, which if you're local history, you know Wat Tyler Park in Pitsea. There was a Jack Straw, not of our old Home Secretary fame, thank God. And there was a John Bull. I'm Adam Bull. So I'm like, as I'm reading, it's literally an oh my God moment. It's like, there's a guy here with my name. And my surname is a strong concentration of it in Anglia, because when I follow my lineage back, we come in, we settled in Isle of Ely, we've been here 1100 years. But the concentration of my name is Anglia. So it was a very good chance I was connected to him. And lo and behold, John Bull actually came through to us. And if you watch that video, there is, Tina's got her pendulum, and I've never seen anything as active as this. This thing was, I'm not saying, is this John Bull? And this thing, vroom, vroom, was like a helicopter. Never seen a pendulum do that. And I said, like, are you connected to me, my ancestor? And he went, yes. Oh, it explains why I'm so belligerent then. It's like he was one of the leaders of the Great Peasant Revolt, and here's me doing things. It was, but to have your own ancestor come through to you, and you can't put words to it. I was gobsmacked that night. I was trying to ask questions, and I'm like, you could have knocked me down with a feather.
Yeah.
You know, here he is my own ancestor coming through to me.
I'm just gonna touch on the point. I know you got a lot of interest when you've done one at Rettendon. Can we go over that a little bit?
Yeah. Now Rettendon, if I can go back slightly.
Yeah, go to the beginning, mate.
Now, what I said about looking at history of sites, where there's not necessarily any paranormal stuff, but where something's happened. And I was reading a book, Foul Deeds and Suspicious Deaths in Southend, and I come across a murder that happened over by Thorpe Bay Yacht Club. Now, it used to be an anti-aircraft battery there, and you'd have no knowledge of it at all. There's hardly anything online about it, other than I think there's a website listing the old gun, the old anti-aircraft battery, and it's down as TN1 or TN2 or something. But you'd have no knowledge of it if you didn't know the history. And I'm reading the history of this, and it's like, to cut a long story short, there was one sergeant called Douglas Kirkcaldy who was shot and killed by a man called another sergeant called James McNichol. Douglas Kirkcaldy came from Ramsgate. James was from Edinburgh, funny enough, Scotland. That was your previous guest. And once you've gone through the case notes, it was clear it should have been manslaughter. But as I say, you definitely need to watch to get the full history of it or read it up. And I thought, well, there's a guy's been shot and killed. What's the chances there's any energy there still? And of course, the date of that happened because it was the day after actual Victory in Japan Day. So I think it was August the 17th, 1945 this was. And I thought, well, go and check it out and see if I get anything through. And I did. Douglas came through on one necrophonic. We got the names of people that were there. It kept saying shot me. We did a two-part because when you looked at the case notes, it wasn't clear because they'd all gone down the pub, they all got pissed. This happened that night after the pub. And we actually made it a two-parter. So we went down the 16th, we got some stuff through, but it became clear we should go back the next night, which we all did. And the responses we got was right on to what happened. And even to the point that my little REM pod got set off. So there was something there.
It was basically backing up the knowledge that was...
Yeah, it was something out of what was nothing really.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, once I've done, that was a murder, we knew what happened there because the case notes is very clear. So I then looked and started looking at what other unsolved murders. Rettendon's come up, isn't it? Of course, it's a massive thing for Essex, big part of Essex folklore, really. So I thought, we're going to look at that. So we've started getting the wheels in motion, looking at site crime scene at courtroom and Theo Clouds as well, the information that they got hold of. So it was really listening to the notes and understanding what we knew had happened or what we've been told had happened there, because there's still a lot of stuff uncovered. And I thought, right, okay, well, I'll use them notes and I'll compile some questions. And then got in touch with Paranormal Essex. I'd already been out with them a couple of times. I know they're really good lads, Adam and Rob. Good fun, but they do get some good content. And Rob being sensitive as well was a good help. But got in contact. Said, "Do you want to come in with me on this? Because this is a big thing." I said, "Yeah." So anyway, started compiling the questions, and then actually looked into whether anyone had done a paranormal investigation in it. And we were, both Paranormal Essex and myself were shocked to find no one had done it. And it was like the 25th anniversary was coming up. So we thought, well, we'll do it on the night. Well, so it's bloody freezing that night. Well, it snowed, but it was cold enough. That's what we'd done. And that was unbelievable. The energy down there was just tremendous. you know, but you can see my K2 was blipping off. I think one of the cat balls got set off. I didn't have them at the time. I think it was Robin Adams. But yeah, there was all sorts of things going on. But it was clear what we got there was them. Particularly when I've sort of reenacted how the gunshots were done, and you can see that blipping off as I'm doing it. Yeah, that was. That was something else because that was the first time we'd done the Estes method, and Rob and Adam had been doing it for a little while, so you know they knew the routine with it. And as it transpired, that was a really great way of getting the communication, because Pat and Tony set my meter off. I think Craig did as well, but
how did you know that was them, or what's the?
We was asking, is Pat there, is Tony there, and
okay,
it was blipping in response to their questions. So we sort of knew that they were there. And then after that, it was I got my new spirit box out, which is a big blooming radio thing, 2 speakers, and it goes on scan. It's a physical radio, whereas I've got an app that does the same thing. And it was difficult to hear stuff with all the commotion because there was a lot of people there. But when I went over the edit, I picked out a voice that said, "I'm Tony." So we got Tony through as well as
so you
Pat.
didn't hear it at the time?
No.
Watching the film back?
Yeah, once I run it on the edit, I picked out Tony. But it was clear that night that Pat was the main, he was the dominating spirit that night. As I say, once we got into the settled down, got the Estes going, and it was abundantly clear Pat was coming through to us. It was just what he was saying, how he was saying it, calling me an idiot. All the rest of it, I thought, this is Pat down to a T. You could just tell it was him coming through. Rob, bless him, he don't like swearing because a couple of times he said, "So I'm sorry about this, but this is what I'm getting." He said, "Fuck's sake," and bits like that.
Yeah.
That's what was coming through. But the responses we got that night was, we found out why they was down there, who was there, more importantly, who wasn't there. Because the Darren Nichols chain of events was Mickey and Jack that done it. So obviously one of the questions I asked in relation to the witness statements that I'd already seen or heard was that there was only 3 occupants in that Range Rover that night. And so one of the questions I asked was there anyone else in that Range Rover at any point? And Pat said no. So there was only ever 3 occupants between Pat, Tony and Craig. So that immediately ruled out Mickey, ergo Jack as well, because the Darren Nichols chain of events was that Mick got in the car with them, he took Jack down there, dropped him off and then come back and got them. But that immediately poo-pooed Darren's statement. So then it moved on and said, right, I've got several names, that were linked with this, but we don't know who's done the shooting. Interestingly enough, although I talked about John Ball, there was a Terry Ball linked to the shootings. He was a nasty piece of work.
I don't know him.
I mean, look into Tony Ball. That'd be very Terry Ball, so not Tony Ball. There was a Terry Ball who come from East London. Now I've got my granddad is one of 17 that come from East London. So there's a lot of us.
Could be related, could be your family.
This is it, yeah. I don't know. This is why the first question off my mouth was to Pat. I said, "Pat, did you know Terry Ball?" And he went, "Yes." And I said, "Was Terry Ball responsible for this?" And he went, "No, idiot." I'm like, "I don't care if you call me an idiot, as long as Terry's not involved with this, I'm happy." You know what I mean? Because that takes my name out of the equation, whatever tenuous link I might have to it. And then we moved on. I think I asked Jesse Gow, again, that was a name that was prominent, that come up. He said no. And then I mentioned Darren Nichols. And Bob said, that I don't know what you, something like, I don't know if it's directly after that or when I asked again. And he said, they're all shouting at me. They were shouting at me, "Scumbag." And then I said, "Right, so can we confirm Darren scumbag?" He went, "Yeah." Did Darren pull the trigger? He went, "Yes." So that was the response I got.
Yeah.
And then I think I mentioned Darren's name again. I mean, obviously, I haven't. This is over. It's nearly a year ago, so it's slightly fuzzy. But if anyone wants to watch it on my channel, it's there. You know, so then sort of checked Darren, and Rob said, "I don't know what you're saying to the. I don't know what you're asking, but it's really pissing them off." So, yeah, that was probably a sign that, you know, Darren was there. He was the guy that done it. And yeah, I mean, I know I've had people come up and troll in and say, you know, he's an idiot. I mean, how do you know? Do you know Darren? Have you ever met him?
Yeah.
So unless you know him, how can you say these things?
Yeah.
You know, all we've got to go on about Darren is that he knew Pat from prison. Obviously, he knew Mick and Jack well. Mickey said when he was in court that Darren was scared of Pat. I think Pat had also taken Mickey out of him as well. So, you know, these little things, you need to, what's it, God is in the details. You need to pay attention to things. But it sort of links into so we've got
part of the puzzle.
That's it, yeah. And I think we sort of left it there once to say we'd asked all the other questions, and then I think I left that one to last. And the funny thing was, as we was finishing it, Rob was like, "Oh, cold," and then he started laughing, and he said, "They've just said, yeah, it's cold." Like, they confirmed that, and I went, right, we'll leave it on that note. Do you know what I mean? Because when, as I've said before, you don't want to overstep the mark with spirits, and one as nasty as Pat, I don't want, you know what I mean, he's bad enough in life. You don't want him fucking attaching himself to you when he's passed. So it was like, okay, can we leave it on that positive note? Do you know what I mean? We finished it there. And but the funny thing was when I said, like, you know, Rob was still sort of under the Estes, and I went, this is like legend stuff now, and like there's books, films, you know, documentaries, crazy, yeah. And Rob just came back and went, films? So obviously they, you know, sitting where they are, they've got no knowledge of what's happened because of it, you know. And we sort of left it on there, and then my initial plan was to come back a year later to do a year on follow-up this December. As far as I was concerned, that was pretty much done, you know, and we were just going to go back this year if there's anything that needs tying up. And of course, she did the interview with Nipper Ellis, and I'm like, shit, we've got to bring this forward because there's now new questions that's coming up and they need to answer. So again, it's not just a case of just turn up. I mean, the amount of research, you know, and reading the notes and listening to everything that's happened, and so you then formulate a pattern, or you formulate sort of a timeline of what's gone on. So once I've got that together and then formulated the questions, we then had a way of moving forward. Now this time, Paranormal Essex can get involved. So we then changed because I was kind of hoping they could get involved again, because Rob under the Estes, just quickly, Rob with the Estes, he's one of the best I've seen. And part of that is because spirits do talk to him. He's sensitive in that respect, like the two mediums we had on the night. And he said that what he finds, he kind of gets the answers before they come through the spirit box. Yeah. And he said that really helps to zone him out. So that's why he's good with it. So to not have that night meant I had to change how I communicated. Change the way you do stuff. Yeah. Now, as you know, that because they went there, we brought Mark and Julie in, two mediums who, you know, could maybe shed some more light on what's going on. Now, the interesting thing is, when we first met up that night, before we went down to London, we parked just up the road, and I met Mark and Julie the first time. And basically, they both said Pat is a very angry spirit, very angry. And I said, yeah, we kind of got that from the last time, but I don't think we gauged how. Yeah. So I don't know. It's because I suspect it's partly because he's just an angry spirit, but also because we've come back to ask more questions. So I think that might be what, you know. So anyway, we've gone down there, we've got set up and gone through the rigmarole. And Pat wouldn't come through to us. I'm just going to go back quickly, very quickly, to the first one. When we've done the edit, I'm talking about EVPs, I've got a grunt. Where that came from, I don't know. But there was a grunt that came through. And that could only have been Pat. When we've gone, just going back again to when we went back for the second time, got set up and everything, but as I say, Pat, he just wouldn't come through to us. But Tony did. And Tony actually come through, as I said, the first time, but Pat was a dominating spirit, but I felt we could get communication by Tony, which did. So the questions I compiled, I was then able to go through them. There was a couple that I couldn't do, and I cannot remember to this day what they were, but I would have needed the Estes method to be able to get the response for them. So because we didn't have the Estes this time, we did the Dowsing ones, which I've used time and again. I trust them, they give good responses. So then we was able to go through the further questions. The first one being because with the Billy Jasper line came to light, along with independent witness report that heard a fusillade of gunshots going off at midnight, all about that time. And then when he looked at Billy Jasper's statement, he said they picked him up around around about 11:30. They would have got them there to the lane in time for that to happen around midnight. So we followed that line. So the first question I asked was, okay, Tony, now, can you cross my rods if you were shot around 7? Can you open them for midnight? And they immediately went boink. So they come out, they were shot at midnight. And then we went on to ask the other questions because of what happened with Nipper, saying that it was his dad. And that other fellow was in the car with them, which we already know was, from the previous statements that there wasn't the fourth person in there. But that's before he even said it. So I then asked, was Sid Ellis here at any point? And it said no. So he couldn't have, he wasn't there, he couldn't have done it. It's not to say Sid might have been involved somewhere down the line, that I don't know. Yeah. I wasn't there to find that out. It was just to see if he was there at that time, and he wasn't. So that ruled it out. And then it was a confirmation, and then I just said to Tony, can you confirm whether it's Darren Nichols that done the shooting? And he said yes. So, those are the responses I got.
Would you tending to go back there again, or is that done and dusted now, that one?
I know I said I wouldn't go back. If I can, there's still an alternate timeline which I want to look at, but I need to get the information to be able to formulate that timeline and then look and see if there's questions that can be asked. And then if there is, then I will consider it. But unless that happens, then no. Because I don't know if Pat will get all pissed off. Let's be back there now. There was one other thing actually. For both the investigations, all the work we put into it, the most compelling thing that came out of that was when Tracy walked around with Tracy Cam, which is my other phone, and it's unbelievable in picking up EVPs. I think whether it's because it's been run over twice by an SUV, the damage to it is very unique, but it still works. Tracy was walking about doing the recording. Now, a lot of the footage, we lost the audio, but there was a small section in that audio, and we got an EVP, and it said, "Fuck you, Darren. Fuck you." That was the most compelling thing. Everything we'd done to have that little EVP that said that. So, I mean, I know Billy Jasper said Mr. D, and I know the Mr. D is on about, I think he was ex-military, I believe, which would say, handle of guns and everything, whether Mr. D, supplied the guns. I don't know whether he's there or not, but this is the response I got. I can't go around it. And there was something else that linked that to me. Now, if you're ex-military, you're going to be used to handling guns, so you're going to be relatively calm about using them. Now, Nichols, although he's got experience with shotgun, as Patrick said He's used them for clay pigeon shooting. What both Rob and I believe Julia Mark also said was that there was energy from that tree line. And going back to what Rob said in the first one, he said something what happens, there's a lot of nervous energy that can leave an imprint. Now that struck me, not so much as someone from the military, but someone who's about to do something that they're totally out of their...
Yeah, a bit scared of, a bit nervous.
Yeah, they're totally out of their tree. I mean, I don't know Mr. D from Adam, but if you're saying to me that he's military, that would say to me he can remain calm and he's trained to do that kind of thing. Not a guy who's fired a shotgun, do a bit of clay pigeon shooting. But that's where we are with it. The further information I want to look at is the alternative timeline, the Carpenter's Arms, Craig Rolfe being spotted there. There was something out there about, I think it was on the previous channels before they were removed. Yeah, you can edit this bit, we know we've done that.
Yeah, we won't say that.
Yeah, you can edit that bit out, but we know we've done that. That said that at least Pat and Tony was seen at the Fortune of War, at the pub, because it wasn't knocked down until...
So it's just the sort of thing you'd be able to pick up then, if you went to these sites and sort of get a feeling or get an answer if they were there?
Yeah, I mean, I try and work, as I said, it wasn't, I didn't go in blind, it wasn't off the bat. The questions I put forward were formulated out of getting the information first, I try and get... As I say, there's been one or two times, like the St Mary's Church, where, I've just gone in off the bat. But most of the time I do my research, and I get the history of the site. Even at St Andrew's Church, I knew that it was built in 1020, I knew it was King Canute that built it. Do you know what I mean? It's all that detail.
So if you should just say you went to that Fortune of War to try and pick up, would that pick up something from there? Because that weren't the site they would...
No. What it was with the Fortune of War pub was that I think it was the landlord that said Pat and Tony, at least Pat and Tony were in there. So nothing happened there, but that's where they met up at a certain time with someone else. So that's those little bits of information. You're going, God is in the detail of all this. You've got to look at the broad picture and see, and try and get a full account of all the movements.
So how would you look for answers for that though, to get to question that?
Well, if the reports came, if someone can get the reports to light about that, I can then say, right, well, that's the report we've got, like with the midnight shooting, when we had that witness statement that said there was a shooting at midnight, that's what he heard. And then when I've asked it at the site, Tony responded yes.
So to answer them questions, you'd have to go back to the Rettendon site to get them answers.
Yeah, that's where they start.
Yeah.
So again, it was the same as when we was there the first time, and when I'm asking questions based on how many people in the Range Rover, I'm asking because I've already come across the reports for it.
Yeah.
Or rather, someone else has got, has read off the report. So I'm asking questions based on witness statements. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's not just, do you regret what you did and all this sort of thing, which I've seen one or two other people do. It's like, right, that's this is the evidence available. I want to see if you can confirm or deny anything linked to that evidence, and then we can work from there. So if that comes to light and I can get the actual piece that said, right, landlord Mr. Bloggs said he saw Pat and Tony in his pub at 8:45. Right, that's his report. Right, that's his witness statement. If I could then go down to the site of the shoot and said, right, Pat or Tony, was you in the pub at that time? And they'll either say yes or no. So that'll either confirm or deny that report. Yeah. That's how I work from. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's not just about... I'm
just going to change the subject for a bit and just lighten it up a bit. Yeah. Have you got any funny stories to tell us you've come across with that?
Yes. St Margaret's Church.
Yeah.
That's the one in Bowers Gifford.
Yeah.
Now, we was down there... When did we have the snow this year? February? It was bloody cold. It was like -3.
Wasn't it December time?
Might have
been just after.
Yeah, I'm sure it was January, February.
Yeah.
Now, we was in lockdown, But I looked at the rules about what you can and can't do under lockdown. And I'm self-employed entertainment, okay, so it's a broad umbrella. It mainly come my DJing, but I put myself down as entertainment. Now, filming and TV production is entertainment.
Yeah.
So when I saw, right, film and TV production is allowed, I thought, well, I can do that because that is what I do. That's my thing. So anyway, we've gone down to St Margaret's Church and Ricky's joined me. Now, again, Ricky helps me on a quid pro quo basis, so he comes in off of his services and I can do the same in return, you know, if I was DJ or something. So we can work on that premise. So anyway, we're down there, we're set up. Now, St Margaret's Church is down a lane. You know, it's very, very quiet. As we're getting going, I could see this car coming down the lane. 2 white lights, and I thought, that's Roz's. There's no one else does, you know. Anyway, he stopped outside, he's got out, and he's got to the gate, and he's like, you guys ghost hunting? And we went, yes, we're doing some filming. You can come and join us if you like. And he went, no thanks, I'm afraid of ghosts, and fucked off.
Really?
Stay safe. Off he went.
I'm going to use that line when I get pulled up next.
I'm like, oh, okay. No, we'll just sit. All right, yeah, stay safe. But there was me sitting there thinking, I'm going to explain, that I can be here and do this. And yeah, he just said, stay safe, and went. Like, fair enough. That's all we did.
Right, Adam, we're going to start wrap it up a bit there, mate.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you ever so much for coming.
Yeah, no problem.
If you just want to, where people can find you and when they can follow you.
Yes, okay. Southend Guy Paranormal, that's my channel. I'm also on Instagram as well, and I have a Facebook page. And yeah, if anyone wants to help my channel, I've got Patreon and PayPal. They're on my Facebook, my YouTube channel.
Also on a Facebook page as well, haven't you?
I think I've got links on there, but I know they're on my YouTube. So yeah, and I mean, obviously the paranormal thing's the main thing we do, but you know, you get the odd 1 or 2 other bits and pieces crop up, the odd road review, and you know, stupid people in cars, all that sort of thing.
Lovely. All right, thank you, Adam.
You're welcome, mate. Anytime.